Matt, you've worked with rock bands, you've worked with all different types of artists. But what really struck me is that you worked with Ariana Grande, superstar pop artist, known for her vocal. What was it like working for her or working with her?
So, it's actually a really cool story. I tend to do a lot in the formative stages, a lot of development. So I had just finished working with One Direction, and really the task with 1D was to craft a sound. When I came back from overseas, I got a call from Wendy Goldstein, who was working with Ari already. And the challenge with Ari, of course, was that she was already famous. She was just famous for doing something else. And she was known as this sort of young pitched, light-hearted star for Nickelodeon. She had 3 million followers on Twitter, which at that time was like a really big audience. So the challenge that Wendy was faced with and that Universal was faced with was, how do we do what we do best? How do we sell her music and sell her as a credible, real, here to stay legendary pop star, when she's already famous for being a child star? The challenge, of course, I get these phone calls because I like the artist development part, and I like the part that is not usually so fun, which is like these kinds of calls. How do we craft an identity? How do we change an identity? What do we need? What are the building blocks for that? So I met Ari, we hit it off right away. We wrote a song called Pink Champagne, and, just fantastically talented in every way and a great writer as well. And so great connection. I realized immediately, like Wendy had said, she had been linking with producers in LA, and that something was happening between the writing, the tracking, and the completion of demos that wasn't connecting. In other words, Ari wasn't finishing our tracks, and we couldn't figure out why, or Wendy couldn't figure out why. So one of my challenges was put Ariana in the booth and see, do I have the same issue? Like, we wrote this great song, now she's tracking this great song, like, what are the issues? And she did, at that time there were issues with completing the songs, finishing your work. Very simple, like a lot of us in creative industries are great at starting ideas, great at getting ideas to a certain point, but then to actually complete and finish is a real commitment. And there was something disconnected there. And so Ari and I talked about that a lot. And, seeing ideas through. Don't toss something because something doesn't feel like it's 100% you or 100% right or whatever it is. Like, let's make sure we finish what we started. And that ended up being our rhythm. And the thing that I did differently that made me the executive producer on the first album was that I was patient with Ariana, and I was willing to stick with her as she worked out different issues with songs in the booth, or we come back, with a fresh perspective to a song. Instead of starting a new song on a second day, let's finish what we started the day before. And through that process, and we did it really through trial and error, 60, 70 songs that we worked on over a course of about 18 months, she ended up really achieving two things. One, getting over that confidence hump, and really learning how to finish her work and get the ideas into a place where they were workable and listenable and finishable. And then the other thing was, the task that we were originally faced with was, how do we change her from Ariana from Victorious to Ariana Grande, the star that you know today? And over the course of those 18 months, what was really unique and cool about Ariana is that she was able to let fans into the process of that evolution, so that they would hear snippets of the things that we were working on and grow with her. And little by little, and I really credit Ariana with this, she was able to educate her fan base that she was making a change. strategic change with her music. She wouldn't be wearing the red bow anymore, that they would be in for a totally different kind of Ariana at the end of this metamorphosis. And that's exactly what we did. And, the moment where I knew that it was working was when she played my song that I wrote with her called Tattooed Heart at the AMAs. I want to say, was that maybe 2012, 2013? She played the AMAs and like brought the house down. It was awesome. And I remember being in a publishing meeting the next day with the head of Universal Publishing at the time, and she was like, "Okay, I finally get it," because I had been talking about Ariana the whole time, and this executive was like, "Oh wow, I saw it last night. I totally understand what you've been talking about." And from there, she really was off to the races, and it's been absolutely amazing to have played that role in that project and to sort of foster the development of that change and watch it turn into what it's turned into. She's just an amazing, amazing pop star and really has done wonders with her platform.
There are a lot of girls with really good voices. I mean, I don't think there's any shortage of that. What do you think Ariana brought to the table, something specifically that launched her where other people may be missing?
Such a great question. And, really the model that she created has been now sort of adopted by newer artists and is really the new model, which is, I would say, the connection with her fans, her unique ability to get attention, command attention, have something to say, get feedback, get her fan base to work certain things or to support certain things. I really think it was something that I had not seen before. And it was very Twitter at that time. One Direction impressed me as well because they were direct marketing. They surprised Simon. Simon was blown away when they came to America and shut down Times Square. Nobody knew that was going to happen except for the boys in the band. They had been direct messaging their fans in America. Ari was the same thing. Ari had like 3,000 tweet drafts on her phone, and we would be in the studio and she would say, "I think this is the right one. This is my mood today. I think this is the right one." She would revise these drafts or tweak them a little bit and then send them out. And she knew how her fan base would react, and she knew what her follow-up tweet would be and all that stuff. So I would say, like, really she has a genuine connection with her fan base that has just grown over time. It's been super powerful. They all came together for her in the wake of an absolutely brutal, insane terror attack. I mean, how many artists I get goosebumps thinking about that day. I mean, just like unbelievable hardship. And her community has grown stronger as a result of it. So I think there's something really special about the way she connects with her fans. Obviously, to your point, so talented, such an amazing singer and a great writer, but there's just something about that direct connection that's always worked and that surprised us all, surprised Universal, surprised everybody in the mix, was her ability to bring those fans with her and grow that base.
Are you saying Ariana's main platform at that time to communicate with her fans was Twitter?
Most definitely. Yeah.
But today, Twitter is the most impersonal platform.
Yeah. I mean, the platform's moved to TikTok and it'll probably move somewhere else in a year or two, but that model is amazing. It's here to stay. Maybe we can give Bieber a lot of credit for the model too, which is you break on social media, maybe it's covers, and you get that base, and then it's your platform and your decision as to what you show that base. And I'm always advising, especially TikTok artists who are amassing these just huge followings, like literally overnight. I'm always talking to them about like, okay, your audience is here. You're at Madison Square Garden every single minute of every single day. Like, what are you going to do with it? You know, how are you going to show them that you're real? Because that's why they're there. They want to see if you're real or not. And so, can you do that? And she was always able to do that.
I'm kind of thinking that if Ariana came out today, would she have the same success?
Mm,
And I'll tell you, see, she launched off of Twitter, which is very impersonal. It's just restricted the sound bites. But Ariana is not really an influencer like today's influencer. She is like this diva pop star. Like she sits on like this stage where I have a great voice, you know, I'm strikingly beautiful girl. Try to find a blemish on me, you can't. Kind of very elusive.
mm,
So she is the ultimate pop superstar. But today, that's not how artists are launching like that.
mm.
They are like relatable. See, the pop superstar or celebrity is everything you can't be. That's the lure. The influencer is, I'm just like you.
Mm.
I shovel the driveway, I take out the trash, but I have 10 million followers and they listen to what I have to say.
It's really interesting what you're talking about too. And my connection, I was thinking about this sort of this morning because I was listening to Taylor Swift, and I'm like fascinated because where Taylor Swift is also an untouchable huge rock star, pop star, she is very successful on TikTok. Things are working. You know, all of her catalog is humongous on TikTok. And I was thinking about like, what is the difference there? And Taylor really is. She really is your next door neighbor in that way, and larger than life in the way that you're describing, which is it is very modern. It is, we know her. We could be her, but she also writes like our favorite songs. And so we feel like we're friends with Taylor. We don't feel like she's as on a pedestal or untouchable or diva-esque. Very interesting. I also think about Doja Cat a lot, right? Recently, I feel like Doja has gotten so many things right that some of the other people who've launched off TikTok have not been able to embrace. And it really is, to your point, there's a relatability. There's a different sense in the musicality. She's embracing a lot of different genres and a lot of different things that like really work on the platform. Yet she has her own sound. So I see your point for sure on that nuance of where direct messaging and direct marketing was effective for One Direction and Ariana, but they used that to build their pedestal. Now it's that same model, but it's used to build the fandom in a slightly different way, in a even more direct way.
So I don't know. Do you think that Ariana could be that last untouchable superstar?
Such a good question. Yeah, I mean, it's what she wants to be. It's what she always wanted to be. She wanted to be Mariah Carey. And I do have a theory that despite some of our best efforts, we usually get what we want. We just have to know what we want. And so, that's exactly where she wanted to be. She wanted to be Mariah-esque, and that's where she sits. That's that exactly where she wanted to land. So, it's a really tough question. I think it's a if I unpack your question, would she be able to break in today's market? The question gets more complicated because it's like, would she have chosen this style of music in today's climate? And would she have embraced the different musical styles, or would she choose a different, slightly different path? And that's where my head goes, is that she would have looked at today's landscape and gone a little bit different stylistically.
Yeah, that's an amazing way to look at it. It's like destiny. I mean, like Mick Jagger, if he looked at today's maybe environment, he may be like, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
And we may have never gotten Rolling Stones. He may have been a nuclear physicist.
Absolutely. You know, Brian May is, he works down the street. But the thing about the Stones is that they did have moments like that, which is what makes them so amazing, you know, is that they did have moments where they sat down and went, and I think it was Mick, as to my understanding, would sit down and go, we're not relevant this year. Like, we need to do a disco album. And we're so awesome that everybody will be cool with us if we do it, you know, and that we can put on any style of jacket and we'll still be the Rolling Stones, and I'll still move like I do, and you'll still love it.
The influencers today apparently seemed like they replaced the celebrity.
They have for my kids, for sure. My 8-year-old, those are her rock stars. Mr. Beast and what's his name? Is it THC? I think THC. There's a guy he's like basically an internet philanthropist. He's a young guy, but he like gives away cars and stuff like that. That's like his big hook. She's got a whole community of people that she pays attention to that I had no idea even existed.
It's amazing to see how the tables flip, because at one point, everyone was trying to mimic the celebrity. But now, when I actually go on TikTok, I see like the Hollywood celebrity trying to emulate the influencers.
Yeah, it's funny. That's really interesting. Totally see it too. And doing silly things, you know, like things that they think might go viral that probably won't.
I've seen too many of those videos.
Yeah, the contrived viral video it's pretty transparent these days.
It's funny, we're on the same page. I saw one a couple of days ago. I'm like, saying to myself, you don't want to do that.
No, and the thing is, and I had this conversation with an executive yesterday, it's like modern music business, a lot of people I talk to scratching their heads. How do we break an artist in this climate? How do we use something that's not TikTok? How do we do this? How do we do that? And I go, have some freaking hits, dude. You know, it's like the same. There's no difference. It's like, come up with a freaking hit song. That's it. That's what it's always been. That's what it is now. That's what it always will be. It's like, if I and the same executive, like, what are your kids into? You have a test market in your house. I have a 12, 11, 8-year-old girls. It's like the best in-house marketing team, or like, you know, bullshit detecting team that you could ever ask for. And it's like what are they into? And I'm like, honestly, they love show tunes, and they will, given the chance, if there's an artist that they love, that they absolutely love, or a record or an album that they love, in the same way that I used to go to a record store and buy the Guns N' Roses album and obsess and read the lyric sheet and immerse, they do the same thing, but only if it's good enough. Like, they did that with Olivia Rodrigo's album. They loved it. They're done with it, but they loved it. And that's all we listened to for 2 months, just like I listened to Guns N' Roses for 2 months straight. There's no difference. It's on the artists. It really is. Like, we just have to make better stuff. If you make it good, everybody's going to love it. And that does not matter which platform it launches off of.
Labels do have a hard time, I think, breaking artists, because there's only one platform to break on right now: TikTok.
I've heard that before too. And you know what I always say? It's like, yo, that's such a big platform compared to when I was a kid. There was no platform at all. People look at the past in this weird way. You know what I mean? like especially like I have this debate all the time in the recording sphere about tape. And everybody's like, oh, look at it. We used to record on tape and it was sounded incredible and the cymbals and all this crap. And I'm like, tape sucked ass. I hated biasing tape machines. It made me crazy. And like having to punch with a tape machine, punch in like vocals, stuff like that was the worst. It sucked. And the records weren't better. The musicianship might have been because you had to work harder to get a better take. So there's something there. But we look back with these weird glasses and it's like it's the same. You know, you gotta realize that TikTok, as limiting as it is, still a huge democratic, you know, workable medium that if you know what you're doing, can use it to gain as much exposure, more exposure, I think, than you could have in the old world.
So you're working with an artist today. So you produce them and they ask you, Matt, what should we do next? You're going to tell them, start a TikTok account.
Yep. Yeah, I am. And then I will go one further. And I just had this conversation with an artist called Joey Valance. Great kids that kind of like East Coast hip hop, Beastie Boys, Tribe Called Quest. Like they're bringing that back and they're young and it's awesome. They were just on Ellen. They have 17 million followers. And I had a meeting with them and it was so refreshing because they were like, okay, we've done what a lot of other people have done. We used the right platform. We used TikTok. We've got 17 million, I don't know, 17 million followers or 17 million streams or whatever it was, but it was a lot of platform. And they said, what do we do? You know, like what's next? And I said, well, you know, a lot of people in your position, right, that they have a different problem, which is how do we get more followers? You don't have that problem. It's like you're asking me, how do we show these followers who showed up for us, who are excited about us? How do we show them that we're real, that we make our own music, that we write our own music, that we're good at performing our own music? Like, how do we show them that it's like, you know, not like a fraud? And I say, well, usually the answer is that you play live. And they're like, yeah, that's what we're doing. You know, we're playing some shows. And I'm like, but in your case, it's weird because when you play New York, you're playing to like 0.005% of those 17 million kids. Like you're not teaching them anything. You know, you haven't educated them at all. And so your game specific to this artist is how can you stream it all? Go play New York. That's great. Make sure South Korea can attend the show because if they can, then you are every single event giving those 17 million followers an opportunity to get to know your artistry and get to know what you just asked me is that how do you demonstrate that you're real in a quick way and capitalize on your fan base? Make sure they're there the whole time, because when you do these spot little shows and stuff like that, you have no visibility to the people who are catapulting you. And so you're not really telling your story. And that was a really fruitful conversation. And we're going to continue that conversation because that's a theory. I don't know if I'm right, but I think there is that my whole thing. And I know you know this now because we've talked about it, right? But my whole thing is to find analogs, is to go back and say, well, when posed with this question in 1990, Oasis said, well, we need to do this, 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 and this. So what is the 2022 version of demonstrating authenticity, of showing that you're real, of showing that you don't give a shit, or whatever that you're trying to convey? And it's wild because my mind goes to, you got big on the internet, so you need to use that tool in unique ways in order to demonstrate that capability. Otherwise, it's going to take you just as long as it did in the past to really light up those Japanese followers or whoever you're trying to harass.
So what is a 2022 version of this, and this is what we need?
Yeah. So I really think it's always been important for artists to show different versions of their songs. That is what does it. That's what did it for me as a kid. That's why I love the Grateful Dead. That's why I loved going to see live concerts when I was a kid, because it'd be like, yo, Counting Crows, like, dude just changed all the melodies to all the songs. I liked this one better. I liked this one less, but I'm in because I'm like, he's talented. That's so weird. What a risk he took. Crazy that he would change his own melodies on the spot in front of, 80,000 people. Like, I just always thought that was the thing, at least for me, that hooked me. I just go, man, that's so cool. Like, they took a risk. They did a different version. So I think it's about the piano version, the remix, and showing that an artist is sort of at the helm of all these different things. That's going to show me that they wrote their own song or had a hand in it. That's going to show me that they know their craft, they're talented. And that's going to show me that I might be surprised when I show up. I might get something amazing, something that none of my friends got, just by showing up to that Malaysia show on a live stream or whatever it is.
Playing live, I think, is always was important, but especially in the days of where you can fake it, it's more important than ever.
Yeah.
Right?
100%. And that's been a really weird evolution. Really weird.
Extremely weird evolution. The whole seeing an artist live has been crazy. I agree. But I think it's also harder for an artist to work on that craft just because of the lack of venues today as well. Right?
100%. And it's harder than ever because pandemic closed a lot of venues. It really is. It's a difficult problem. Again, I go to the internet and I just go, your nightclub is your site. You have the ability to create your own MTV. I've seen bands do it. So many of them, too many bands who have succeeded at capitalizing on the internet to pretend that that's not the tool, right? So it's free. It's by your own design. You have complete creative control. I mean, if we take the word internet out of it and we look back at the way we used to craft record deals, like my band got signed in the early 90s, or in the late 90s rather. And it was like that time where everybody was really scrutinizing the contracts. And it was like right before the 360 deals and the contract. And we always would vie for, we need 100% creative control and we need to be at the helm of this and all this stuff. If you look at 2022, artists, they have it all. They have 100% creative control. They do whatever they want. So the question is, are they creative enough? Are they Jimi Hendrix? Can they command that audience and do enough crazy, enough wild stuff to really command that fan base the way artists always have?
That is a big question. And I think today it's a different type of artist. I think every generation we look at, there's artists and artists are creative beings. And when they create something, it's really manifesting themselves. But today we're definitely living in an interesting environment. Now with TikTok, it's asking an artist or a potential artist to manifest one more thing that they didn't have to in the past.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Oh, 1,000%. And I had this conversation yesterday too. It's like an artist has to have they have to be their own stylist. They have to be their own videographer, their own photographer, they have to have like a hand in hip hop, a hand in punk, a hand in R&B, like this whole thing. And and a friend of mine was saying, oh, it's incredibly daunting. Like, how do people do it? And it's like, I don't know. I can't do it. But Doja Cat can. She kills it. Every single checkbox that we just listed, she can do all by herself, right? And so as long as there are artists like, or The Weeknd, you know, like as long as there are artists who can pull off that insane ask, they're the ones who are going to be in command, and they are. They're killing it. You know, Weekend's bigger than ever. I mean, and he does whatever he wants. Those songs are weird. They're so weird. Gasoline's so weird. I love it. It sounds like Flesh for Lulu or something. It's like so out there. And I'm just like, he can do it. He can do whatever he wants.
Well, Matt, it was a another good discussion.
Absolutely. I love hanging with you, and I really, really appreciate the recut. It wasn't that much different, just